Today we're going to live audit Organica's supplements e-commerce store like we did for Cotopaxi's second episode in the BFCM preparation series. But before live auditing their store here, I opened up their ad library, I opened up the ads and the creatives they're running right now, and we'll tell a few things here related specifically to the traffic and the funnels they're running here. So the creatives they're running, they're fine, they're good, not great. I think specifically for the healthcare niche, and I've repeated this hundreds of times, for the healthcare niche, supplements niche, nutrition niche, where there's a lot of things heavily related to emotions, to pain points, to problems that people face every day out there. I think we can use much more angled creatives around those pain points, problems and emotions, and we will be performing very, very well. Also, one thing around the style of funnels they're running, they're not running any specific offers, they're not running any specific funnels. All of these creatives all funnel to collection pages where they just show off the products without any kind of like selling or angling it towards an offer and stuff like that. And again, for supplements, for healthcare in general, for the healthcare niche, doing that and running towards offers and funnels will perform much better and will focus the customers that go through the funnel on a specific offer sold as a solution, as a new mechanism for a specific emotion or pain/problem. So without further ado, after giving a look to the traffic and the creatives they're running right now, let's look at their store here. As usual, I have it in mobile form so we can see what the most of the traffic I assume sees. So first of all, we start from the homepage and we immediately get greeted with a take the quiz call to action. First of all, something we've tested and we've also seen with a lot of other brands, having videos. I know obviously they're not running traffic to the homepage because I've seen the creatives they're running, but running videos at the top of and above the fold on pages usually performs worse than just having something static, because it divides the attention between the video on the bottom and the text on the top, and we want to obviously focus on text and call to actions here, especially if you're going to run traffic on the homepage. Definitely not popular with supplement brands for specific reasons, because obviously product pages and specific landing pages performs better. But if you're going to run traffic to the homepage, try to not have any video above the fold, because that's usually what performs better. Second thing that obviously doesn't help with text readability here, because there's just a lot of stuff going on under video. For example, that last shot you saw there was a lot of white on white, with the call to action also being white. Not a great layout here if you want people to focus on the take the quiz call to action, which they're pushing heavily here. And what I suggest to do in this case is, I wanted to give a look at the creatives and the funnels specifically because of this, because I think they should run the quiz angle as a funnel, as a separate lander, instead of having it here on the home page of the store. But that's the reason I mentioned there the creatives and the traffic they were running from the ad library. But let's go forward and see what they're actually selling here. So let's go to the products. Let's look at the menu. So the product menu in itself looks pretty good. It's pretty basic. They have the products and they are dividing them by collagen supplements, superfoods, electrolytes. This is probably listed as like the best sellers first, so probably their best selling product is collagen, and they have more general supplements here. We can do a little bit of work here of separating better what the products are separated, like, because we have collagen, then we have supplements, and then we have superfoods. So it's kind of separated a little bit in a strange way. If people are going to look for stuff here, they may get confused. Shop by benefit, this is definitely much better way of separating things. As I mentioned before, for healthcare, for nutrition, for supplements, you want to center things around emotions or around specific pains and problems. So if people have bone and joint health problems, people have gut health problems, people have sleep and relaxation problems, anxiety problems, beauty and stuff like that, this is definitely a very good way of separating here the products. And they have promotions, learn more, contact us. But so far so good, nothing really bad here about the menu. I would separate and list the products here a little bit better to have a little bit more clarity, and there's just too many options here for things to choose. So on the menu there's probably a little bit of things that can be done there. For the cart page, they're going with the page approach. So if you click on the cart, immediately they have a page popping up. Your cart is currently empty, and they only have a one call to action that I imagine goes to the home page. So they're definitely losing out on a lot here. As I mentioned a lot of times, carts are very, very useful, especially when they're empty. You need to leverage them the most when they're empty. You need to redirect the focus on products immediately, or collections at the very least. So This is a lot of empty space here that can be used and can be leveraged much better than how it's doing right now. Even like the simpler things, the simplest thing they can do here is not redirecting the continue shopping call to action to the homepage, which just ruins the flow of the store. If you are on the cart and you click on continue shopping, you expect to be redirected to somewhere where you're going to be looking at products to actually continue the shopping, which is what the call to action says. But in this case, either you change the call to the call to action, which doesn't really make sense, or you redirect the call to action to the appropriate place, which in this case should be at the very least a collection page or something like that. So here on the cart, there's quite a lot of things they're missing out on here on the cart. As I mentioned also for Cotopaxi in my last breakdown, you can also go look at that after looking at this video. They can have the products laid out as sort of slider, and then to go over and look at the whole collection. So maybe just have like the first 2 or 3 best sellers of that specific collection, and then to see the whole collection, you have an empty card at the end with see more, or go to the collection, or go to name collection to go see all of the other products. But just having white space here in your cart is unacceptable at the DTC e-commerce level. So quite a lot of work that can be done here on the cart. So let's click on one of their call to action, not the take the quits one, but one that redirects to some products. In this case, this one is for creating. So let's click on shop now, and we're redirected to the creating product page here. We're going to look also at other product pages, because I think there's different ones for different products, and also the collection pages. So first thing we can notice here is that they have a 30% discount running on creating, and they have a code for it just slapped there on the top, with not really a lot of context around how to use the code, or when to use the code, or where should you apply the code. It just there doesn't really do anything. But just by clicking on it, you actually understand that clicking on the thing here copies the code in your clipboard, so then you can apply it at a later stage. But if you don't click on it, it's really not very understandable how to use the code like this. And also the pop-up that comes up, probably if you've used a lot of different e-commerce stores from a few different brands, you understand that this is copying. But for the average user, maybe this is not clear enough to understand that they are copying the code to use at a later stage. So definitely discounts can be showcased much better than this. I bet they're losing on quite a few sales of people not knowing how to use this code right here, and being frustrated with the fact they can't use it, and then losing the sale for that. But that's definitely something that needs to be done better on this product page. But let's look further. Again, another thing I mention a lot with product pages is the insane amount of white space a lot of brands waste on their product page. In this case, it's just a lot of space. I'd imagine that the image here and the image slider is taking like more than 50% of the page, at least like 60 or 70% of the page, which is obviously not good. As I mentioned with different breakdowns that I've done for apparel brands and supplement brands, apparel obviously and fashion in general need more images being big, because they have more lifestyle rated images, and people obviously like to look at what they're going to have, what they're going to buy, what they're going to try. But in this case, supplements, no one really cares about the packaging. Obviously the branding and the packaging branding, yeah, it does something, and it helps with recognizability and the branding factor. But on the PDP itself, just letting it take that much space is not helpful at all, and it's just too much white space wasted here, just definitely too much. On PDP, you want to always focus on action in the above the fold, and 100% of the traffic is going to see your above the fold, so you need to leverage properly, and this is not leveraged properly at all. So that's definitely something that needs to be worked on here. Even the images that are focused on the back of the package, which you need to be able to read here. It's not very readable, and I can't really do anything or zoom by clicking on it. So these images are definitely very wasted for the product page here. But let's scroll further. This is probably one of their newer products, so that's why they have probably this layout going on for this. But we're going to look at other product pages too, and also their collection pages. So they have enhanced strength, power, and performance in your workouts. Okay, this is not bad. I will suggest above the fold, always go for action. So have a little snippet or description or pointed list here just for a few brief things about the product, and then under the above the fold or under the action, you can expand on like the actual education and informational side of the product, especially for supplements. That's super important. Flavor and size, we have only one selection here. I'd imagine they will add other flavors and other sizes in the future. If you decide you're not going to have other flavors and other sizes in the future, so you only have one variation for both, then just removing those from here helps help remove clicks and just thinking about what like are they there for. So if they're going to keep only unflavored option, only the 500 gram option, then you may just remove it and just have the call to action here, which they have fixed on this page specifically. I don't know if they have it like this also on other product pages, but we're going to look at those also. But this one is fixed and just scrolls with the page, which is not necessarily bad. But when you are at the top of the page here, I would like at least here, and we've tested this with a few different brands on the call to action positioning and fixed and non-fixed call to action. Fixed call to action, they work pretty well and they usually perform better than non-fixed. So having a call to action that's floating there just helps with clicking it. There's nothing really much to do about that. But here at this point here, when you are on the above the fold in the buy box section, just having a fixed one here, call to action one here, that just stays there. And if you scroll past it, if you scroll above it, if you scroll under it, then it becomes fixed. And this is something you can do. There's apps that do this for you. There's teams, Shopify teams that do this for you. You can also build custom. It's super simple with HTML and CSS. So that's also one thing about call to action they need to take care of. I think they have some kind of like points on the reward system, because you can collect 180 points when you purchase this product. Not really explained very well. I would have something like a tooltip. If you have reward programs, if you have points programs for your brand, I would have some kind of tooltip or something that explains how can you use the point, how's the point system like, how you can use them, what's like the timeline for using the points, if you have like unlimited time or if you have a strict timeline to use them. Something to explain the point system here. Doesn't need to be too big. As I mentioned before, we are here for action, we are here for the buy box, we are here for the call to action, for the add to cart. But just a very simple tooltip here would help quite a lot and would get more people for them in their UR program, if that is their goal. They have 3 very simple labels here, 2 very simple pages. Free shipping on orders over $49, that's good. Satisfaction guaranteed, okay. Carbon neutral, okay, for people that care about neutrality and all that stuff. That's also very important. Good page to have there, especially for supplements. But then looking at the rest of the product page, they just go for very simple accordions here with just a lot of text in them. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a wall of text here. So when you scroll past the buy box section, you're expected to be greeted with education on the product information and stuff like that. But that's usually in the form of like visuals, in the form of pages, in the form of images, and not in the form of walls of text. And I say that because from looking at heat maps or looking at store recordings of other brands in the same niche, other supplement, nutrition, healthcare brands, wall of text just do not perform well at all. People do not read them, they just skip through them brutally. So if you have something like this, for example, features, which is a wall of text like this, and you have to scroll past it, 99% of people will just scroll past it and just skip it and just not like read or get anything of this in their mind. And that's why I also advise for having very good product images, because 100% of people are going to see them. On most brands, for some reason, they just take massive space on the page. They just can't seem to get rid of all of the white space that forms around the image. That can be done very easily with some custom adjustments on Shopify. But if you're going to have all of the space for the product images, then you definitely need to have some very well optimized images with some education points, with some benefit points, with some long-term results of the product, mid-term results, some reviews from people that have used the product. So leveraging those images to explain those points and then reiterating them later down the page will help with education, will help with making an informed decision about the product. So that will definitely help. So walls of text like this, just know, and if you install heat maps or anything that records user usage of the store, you will see that most people will skip through sections like this. I just skipped through collection pages and went directly to a product page, but let's look obviously also at collection pages. And in this case, one thing I always mention when I start testing for brands, we want to ideally get the first test up and running for every brand we work with, every e-commerce brand we work with. We try to get the first test up and running in the first 7 days. So on day 7, test number 1 is always up and running. It's something we try to do for every brand we work with. And obviously, what you need to do in that situation, in that case, if you're going to run tests for your own brand, you need to hit first where the traffic is coming. And in their case, if Organica became our client today, on day 7, the first test we would run would be a test on their collection pages, because that's where they're spending money on. And so you need to understand how to make sure you're getting the most out of the money you're spending on your traffic. And since all of their traffic is basically going to collection pages, since that's where they're redirecting their creatives to, we would start from testing first their collection pages, and then obviously moving over to having a little bit more structured funnels, having redirecting traffic to the correct pages, to the correct lenders. But since we want to get that first test up and rolling in the first 7 days, and we always do that for everyone we work with, we would direct the first test where the traffic is, where the spend is, so 4 collection pages. So this page, for example, would be a very, very good candidate of being the subject of the first test. So let's look at their collagen collection, which is probably collagen is their best performing product, I think, from how they're structuring it around all of the collagen products. Immediately, one thing that's not good for the mobile layout of things, on the mobile side of things, is the 1x1 list of products here. We've tested this on mobile. Usually having 2x2 performs better. On the AOV side, this is just for the reason that people just see more products, and so they're more open on choosing and actually finding what they're looking for, because as you can imagine, with every single scroll they have to do, the drop off is massive. And again, that's why I suggest installing heat mapping software, scroll maps and stuff like that, because you can understand like how heavily drop off affects your pages, because by this point of the page here, 90% of people, 80% of people have already stopped scrolling. And so if you have just 1x1 products like this, and the cards are pretty big in this case, you will only have seen 2 products just start to see the third. So all of the products that are down under here that might be useful for people looking for them, they will not just see them just because of the layout on the collection page. So definitely very useful to have heat maps, scroll maps in this case to see how are these things impacting their traffic. But the collection page in this case, besides the structure here and the layout, they have a little bit of a weird structuring here on the card of the product. So they have the price on top here, and it's from, so it's usually something I don't suggest having, the from wording on the pricing. Then they have, again, a lot of white wasted space for the product images. Then they have the title, a little bit of a description, which is the same description they have on the product page, which I imagine is the actual product description on their Shopify. Then they have 2 sizes available and buy now. If I click on buy now, I think this should be redirecting to the PDP. Okay, that's good, because some brands have the call to actions that just add the product to cart, but then they don't have any variation selection on the collection page. So maybe people lose out on the fact that there are a lot of variations. In this case, there are more flavors, more sizes and stuff like that. So if you're going to have a call to action on the cards on collection pages, which you should definitely have, they should redirect to the PDP. And if you want them to add directly to cart, then you should have the variation selection possibility on the collection page, which I don't suggest, but it's usually the kind of tests we also run on collection pages to see what performs better for brands. Let's look at the different PDP they have running here for their collagen specifically. I think this is their best selling product in this case, looking from the reviews. Again, here they're doing a little bit better work with the product images. So creating was probably one of their newest products. That's why I didn't really have some of these things laid out. But yeah, again, some of these images, the nutrition facts, especially for these type of products, they are not laid out very well. I think I probably can assume you can probably see them if you squint really hard, or if you can probably read that, but there's no option to zoom. I don't know if it's because it's the iOS simulator and I can't do that, but you can zoom in and you can't read what's there. So these images here are basically useless, really. So that's why you need to have. So this image here, for example, is a pretty good example of what I mentioned before, of explaining like benefits, pains, problems solved. So maintains healthy bones and joints, 9 grams of protein per serving. This is a very helpful image to get immediately the idea of what this product does. You can lay it out in a better way. Obviously, it's not really branded. Doesn't really have the feeling of what they're trying to convey here with the product, but it works better than not having anything and just having the packaging image like this one on here. I would actually argue this works better as a main image than this one, but this is something they would be open to test, I assume. So again, product images there, very, very good way of testing your PDP if you don't know where to start. Then again, they have the same structure for the reviews and the title. They have the description again, and for this product here for collagen, they have subscriptions and one-time purchases. So this section is a bit laid out in a little bit of a strange way. So usually when you're trying to work with one-time purchases and buy boxes where you have one-time and subscription, what you usually want to do, and this is obviously again testing for clarity and testing for seeing how well we can push for the offer on the page. So in this case, we're testing for presentation. We usually want to have the prices in the boxes themselves and then a discount or like a slashed out price explaining immediately what the discount is, what the benefit is for subscribe and save. So they do have a few points here of benefits for the subscribe and save, but instead of just saying save 25%, you can actually show it visually, which is much more powerful than just reading it in text. So having, for example, the slashed out $32.49 here in red, and then having the $24.37 as the actual price on the right of it, on the right of the splash price, and it will help a lot with just visibility and clarity on the offer and what's going on here for that. So when we're running one-time purchases, subscription offer and stuff like that, make sure you're pushing very, very hard on the offer. Make sure it's immediately and visually clear what is going on here for the subscription. If you want people to subscribe, you're going to have to give them a reason why. If your offer is not good enough for that, then you'll have to push on the presentation side of things and make sure it looks good. So that's also very important if you want to push for that LTV, if you want to push for the subscription conversion rate. That's very, very important for buy boxes. And then they have the size selection. And then again here, they're working with the fixed add to cart, as I mentioned again, for the other page. In this section here specifically, it may be a little bit weird because imagine someone that's scrolling this page, and again, third time, it's why it's super useful to have heat maps and user recordings for these types of things. Imagine someone is going to scroll here because they want to select what's happening here, if they want the one-time purchase, if they want the subscription, if you want to change the size, and then the call to action is just way down on the bottom of the page here. So in this section, what I would have, as I mentioned before, having a fixed call to action here, and then if you scroll above or under the fixed call to action there, then it just clicks to the page on the bottom there, and that's fine. But having one there, I think, would help with add to cart. That's also something else I would test there. They have the same pages going on for the other product they had. They have a review going on here, which is pretty good. I think it's hidden a little bit in the structure of the page because it just seems like normal text. Usually when we want to highlight reviews, just give it a box that stands out, that pops out with maybe an image of the customer that left the review or the name or the stars they gave. This is here just text slapped on here. So two iterations you could do of this is obviously having a kind of colored box, something that pops out to the eye that makes it different from all of the other text that will be there on the page, because I imagine here it's even worse than the other page. The wall of text is even bigger. So that's also something they need to be able to test and change here. But yeah, for reviews, either you have a box or something that pops a little bit more here with color, with some branded colors, or even better, or you can do even both, is having the review in a product image by itself with the product. It does very, very well on authority and trust. You immediately show something trustful about the product. Not a lot of people are going to scroll and reach this point in the page. I can assure you of that from scroll maps, from looking at recordings. So having it in the images will make sure much more people, a much bigger percentage of people can see that. So yeah, that's what I would do with this review here. And they have some pages going on here for Canada's #1 collagen powder, and then pages. These work much better again in product images. I'm repeating myself, but this is very, very important. These pages right here would do very, very well melted with some of these images here or mixed with some of these. So try to use the images a little bit better than how you're doing right now. Try to leverage them. You're going to understand that most people that go through your pages see those and scroll those. So make the best use of them that you possibly can. And again, here with information, they can probably do a little bit better work of showcasing this a little bit more visually and being much more selling the scroll. One thing that I always mention when talking about advertorials and listicles mainly, because there you don't have call to actions, or at least you don't have them above the fold or immediately as fast as with PDPs. If they're going to scroll down the page, then you have to sell the scroll. And if they're like scroll down and see just this wall of text right here, they're going to for sure just skim through all of it or just bounce off the page. So you need a little bit more visual here for the information, for the education. The reviews are pretty good. They're using your standard Shopify app for showcasing reviews. So yeah, this is mostly it about this PDP here. So let's add this to cart and see what happens when the cart is empty. So when the cart has something in it. So you've seen the cart empty before, they're not using that right. So they have a little pop-up going on here, I think for kind of cross-selling you on other products of theirs. So this is not good for multiple reasons. First of all, the layout is just super bad. Why you should have to scroll with all of this white space wasted here. I think this is probably not performing for them very, very well. If I had to assume, it's just too much to be able to take in. You have to scroll and you see the quantity selector, and then you have the auto cart after you scroll, and then the products are just showcased like this. They're not even really related to the main product you were looking at in the first place. With cross sells, that's the most important thing you have to do. You have to showcase something related to what you're already looking at. If you're just going to show all of your catalog, then most customers, most visitors are just going to get analysis paralysis and they're not going to choose anything. So that's also something to keep in mind when working with upsells and cross sells. Where we can look at the cart here, we have a product now in here. So they really have just a standard Shopify structure for cards. They're not really changed anything here. First of all, continue shopping button. You can remove that. If customers want to continue shopping, they'll just do it by themselves and they don't need another call to action. The only call to action you want to have on a cart page is the checkout. Yeah, even all of these payment option call to actions here on product pages, they might be fine. Again, something you can heavily test and see what performs best for your brand. On cards, I usually just see checkout only call to action perform the best. If you're going to see 4 call to actions again on cart page, it just becomes a lot for the customer. So on cart specifically, I would say just one checkout button, and then later down the checkout journey, they can select the other options. Maybe something to reassure them in this case would be having the payment method icons to make sure everyone knows like what are the payment methods available before going forward with checkout. But 4 call to actions here are a little bit too much, so just one would work better. Then again, maybe a little bit too much text here about subscriptions, about taxes and shipping. All of this stuff is handled by checkout, especially if you're working with Shopify, which in this case they are. So I don't see really the reason of having this, again, all of this mentioned on the cart itself. 99% of brands shouldn't really do this, shouldn't have just a lot of text on the cart. Cart should be very clean, very simple, very straightforward. You see what products you have there. You can see other products that are related to your cart if you want to upsell or cross-sell anything else there. And then you just see the subtotal, the total, and then a very simple, very direct go to checkout or buy now button there. So that should be it.